Okay, shalom everybody. This Shabbos is the Shabbos before Purim. And
Wait a second. The Shabbos before Purim?
part,
But today's days.
no, not this Shabbos, the next Shabbos. Next Shabbos. The Shabbos before Purim.
Oh, okay.
Actually, there is a thing called Mishenichnas Adar Mar B'Mesimcha. So we start to mention the thing that happened in Purim in the beginning of Adar. Shabbos before Purim, this Shabbos Purim is Motzei Shabbos, but sometimes it's few days before Purim Shabbos. We reading Parshat Zohar. Zohar is Asher Osarach Amalek. Part of what we're mentioning, what Haman wanted to do and how Hashem turned it over him. So we started from Amalek because Amalek was the great-grandfather of Haman. This fact that we're reading, or Parsha Zohar, is a good opportunity to learn what Amalek is all about. And let's see first the sources in the Torah. We have two places in the Torah that Amalek mentioned in this, relate to this. And analyze them and try to enhance our understanding. So the Torah says in Parshas Kitetze, and those are the verses that we're reciting instead of the maftir of the Parsha. This year it will be Parshas Tzav. We are not reciting the regular maftir, which is the last three psukim of the Parsha, but instead we're doing Parsha Zohar, which is 3 psukim at the end of Parshas Kitetze. Parshas Kitetze is in Sefer Devarim, and Moshe Rabbeinu said the entire Sefer Devarim at the end of the 40 years in the desert. So in Sefer Devarim, he related to an event that happened in the first year, because the war with Amalek happened right after Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's mentioned in the Torah in Sefer Shemot Parashat Beshalach. It was actually before Ma'amad Har Sinai. It was on the way right after crossing the Yam Suf and before Ma'amad Har Sinai. So let's start first from Parshas Kitetze, and then we'll go to the event, how the Torah described it in Parshas Beshalach. In Parshas Kitetze, it's mentioned the following. It says the following: Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to you. And again, remember because it happened 40 years ago. Now, of course, the Torah were given to all generations to the end of history, so it's related to us. Remember what happened then. But if we talk about what Moshe Rabbeinu says, he's speaking to the people that 40 years ago went through this event themselves. So he told them, remember, Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek, baderech. Be aware of the word derech. Baderech, on the way. It's mentioned twice over here. Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek, baderech b'tzetchem mimitzrayim. Asher karcha baderech. This is the second time. It happened to you. He came to you, encountered you on the way. ויזנב בך כל הנחשלים אחריך, ואתה עייף ויגע, ולא ירא אלוהים. And he killed all those weak people that was going at the end of the camp, and you were tired and suffer from not fearing God. Now the mitzvah. Remember again, we're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of the 40 years, before Yoshua ben Nun took over right after him and crossed the river. The first mission is to just conquer Eretz Yisrael from the Canaanites. And here's the mitzvah. After you will finish with the Canaanites and inherit the country, then don't forget to close the open account that we have with Amalek. והיה בהניח השם אלוקיך לך מכל אויביך מסביב בארץ אשר השם אלוקיך נותן לך נחלה לרשתה. And here's the mitzvah. תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים. תמחה meaning wipe them out in a way that no memory of them will remain. תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים, and be aware of the following. תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים, לא תשכח. Don't forget. So this those three psukim start with the word zachor, remember, and end with the negative, don't forget. So there is why you should warn somebody not to forget, because there is a tendency to forget. Meaning, if you will not do extra effort to remember, you'll naturally forget. So here, on those things that I just emphasized, there are many big things. We'll see how many of them we could cover. Okay, now, let's go back again to when the event took place, 40 years ago, from the point of view of Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of the 40 years, right after Yetzias Mitzrayim. So we'll go to the psukim in Parshas B'Shalach. By the way, those are the psukim that we sang in Purim itself, as a Kriyas HaTorah of Purim. Right? So the psukim says the following. פרשת בשלח. ויבוא עמלק, וילחם עם ישראל ברפידים. Amalek came and he initiated a war against Israel, against the Jewish nation in Refidim. Many people who do not really familiar with the geographic, just imagine, Eretz Israel in general, you know how it looks, right? You know that Mitzrayim is in the south, west. Go down, southwest, this is Egypt, right? The peninsula of Sinai is like a triangle that goes from the south of Eretz Israel down. Okay? Refidim, just use your imagination, Refidim located at the close to the point of the peninsula, down this triangle. Okay? This is Refidim. So we're talking about, we do not know exactly where was the crossing of Yam Suf happened exactly. But we assume that it was in the left side of this triangle of Peninsula of Sinai, right? On close to the top of it. Okay, from then, the Jewish people went down to the south and got to Refidim. Refidim was very close to Har Sinai. Because right after that happened the story. I'll tell you how do I know it, because it's mentioned that before Amalek came, that was no water in Refidim, right? It's mentioned in the Torah, let me show you. ויסעו כל עדת בני ישראל ממדבר סין למסעיהם על פי השם, ויחנו ברפידים, ואין מים לשתות העם. There was no water. And then Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm going to give them water. And he said, I will stand over there. הנה אנוכי עומד לפניך שם על הצור בחורב. והכית בצור ויצאו ממנו מים. So the tzur, the stone, the rock that Moshe Rabbeinu took the water out of it to give the people water was in Har Sinai, in Chorev, right? So, and Amalek came right after that. So Refidim and Chorev are very close, and this probably at this place, south of this triangle down. Okay, now, why it's important to picture it? In order to understand where Amalek came from and what distance he has to do in order to do this attack. So where Amalek was located, Amalek was living, the Torah mentioned that later on, Amalek yoshev be'eretz ha-Negev. The Torah mentioned it. Amalek sitting in the Negev, in the south of Eretz Israel. It's close to, if you know, Yam HaMelach, down, right at the south of Yam HaMelach, there is a place called Arad. Do you know, anybody knows this place, Arad? Okay? Arad was in Amalek city. But Amalek was not just in Arad, because Arad is in the west side of Yam HaMelach, of the south of Yam HaMelach. Amalek was living in this area of the south of Yam HaMelech, down and in the east side also. This is the place where Amalek was living, right? Now we have to remember that Amalek was not part of the 7 nations. He was not Amaleki. He was not Canaani. Later on we'll see who he was. He was not Canaani. And he was not a target. I mean, when we went out of Egypt, we went in order to inherit the country from the Canaanites. So he was not our enemy. What gave him this motivation to go all the way, and he has to go long distance from where he was, over there, around the Yam HaMelech, down all the way the desert, across the entire desert, Sinai desert, to go down to Refidim to attack the Jewish nation. This also we have to take into account in order to understand how, again, the motivation was the main thing that they wanted to be focused. What Amalek wants from us? Why he did what he did? Okay, now, ויבוא עמלק וילך עם ישראל ברפידים. ויאמר משה ליהושע, בחר לנו אנשים וצא יילחם בעמלק. Moshe says to Yoshua bin Nun, and this is also a very interesting point. Yoshua bin Nun, as we know, was a dedicated, most close disciple of Moshe Rabbeinu. ומשרתו יהושע בן נון נער לא ימיש מתוך האוהל. He was learning Torah with him all time. Moshe קיבל תורה מסיני ומסרה ליהושע. Everything that Moshe got from Hashem, he gave Yehoshua. So Yoshua bin Nun was a Torah figure, not a fighter, not a general, and actually no one apparently from the Jewish people was a fighter. They were slaves. They came out of Mitzrayim, right? Moshe Rabbeinu chose from all the possibilities. I mean, everyone in the 600,000 people that were there. He chose Yehoshua. You going to make this war. I mean, in order to do a war with Amalek, you have to be a Torahic person. Okay. בחר לנו אנשים, chose people. How? Not based on training, because nobody was trained at the time. Chose, Anashim is Anashim Chashuvim, is important people. Important people in our scale, meaning in very high level spiritually. בחר לנו אנשים. וצא יילחם בעמלק. Go fight Amalek. But here's the interesting point. Machar, he told them tomorrow, don't go now, go tomorrow. מחר אנוכי ניצב על ראש הגבעה. Me, myself, Moshe Rabbeinu, I will be part of this war. You will take the people, the men that you choose, and go make the actual fight. I will be part of it. How? מחר אנוכי ניצב על ראש הגבעה ומטה האלוקים בידי. I will go up to the hill with the stick that I made all the miracles in Mitzrayim, the stick that with it I split the Yam Suf and did all the miracles. And while you will fight, I will daven. Okay, so Yoshua took those men, went to the war, and the Torah describes something very interesting, that Moshe, Aharon, and Hur, Aharon was his brother, Hur was his nephew, the son of Miriam, went up to this hill. And Moshe Rabbeinu was davening. And the Torah mentioned the following. When Moshe Rabbeinu raised his hands up, the war was for the Jews. When he put his hand down, Amalek won. And about this, the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah asked, וכי ידיו של משה עושות מלחמה או שוברות מלחמה? The war is up to the hands of Moshe Rabbeinu. If they up, they're winning. If they down, they're losing. What's going on? So the Mishnah says, אלא לומר לך, to tell you, שכל זמן שהיו ישראל מסתכלים כלפי מעלה, when the Jewish people was looking up, meaning those fighters who fought down was looking up to know that לא בחיים ולא בכוח כי אם ברוחי אמר השם. It's not how strong we are, how better soldiers we are, better fighters we are, but everything is Hashem ish milchama, when we look up and we know that even if we successful in the battlefield, it's not us but Hashem, then they were winning. וכל זמן שישראל לא, when the Jewish people are not looking up, and this is the hands of Moshe Rabbeinu, when the hands are down, they were losing the war. Amalek was winning. And the Torah mentioned more than that, וידי משה כבדים. It was not easy for Moshe Rabbeinu to hold his hands up, meaning the hands wanted to go down. And Moshe Rabbeinu himself, it was very hard for him to keep them up, but Aaron and Hur that were there helped him. Aaron and Hur hold the hands of Moshe up, and because of this fact, the war was ending when the Yidden won. So, Videi Moshe Kvedim, the Torah mentioned it was hard. The result was, the technical result was, ויחלוש יהושע את עמלק ואת עמו לפי חרב. Joshua pushed them and just made them not successful to hurt the Jewish people. It doesn't mention that he destroyed them completely, but in the war, we won, right? Right after that, something also very interesting. Hashem speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu, and Hashem says, let me just have the exact words of the psukim. ויאמר השם אל משה, כתוב זאת זיכרון בספר, ושים באוזני יהושע, כי מחו אמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים. Again, the emphasizes. ויאמר השם אל משה, כתוב זאת זיכרון בספר. Write it down in the book. Which book? The Torah. כתוב זאת זיכרון בספר, this is Torah שבכתב. ושים באוזני יהושע, this is Torah שבעל פה. And this is the first mission on Avos. משה קיבל תורה מסיני ומסרה ליהושע, the Torah שבעל פה. So this thing that Hashem declaring, what Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu to write down, כתוב זאת זיכרון בספר. What זאת? What is this? Write this in the book and put it in the ear of Yeshua. כי מחו אמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים. Hashem says, I'm going to wipe them out from under earth, from under the sky on earth. They will not exist. Hashem declaring that he is going to do a war. And it's mentioned even more than that in the next pasuk. Vayomer, ki yad al keska. Hashem says, not just saying it. Kivyachol, Hashem says, I'm putting my hand on kisei hakavod, and I'm swearing in my chair, kisei hakavod. Ki yad, kivyachol, the yad of Hashem, is on the kisei hakavod. Milchama laHashem ba'amalek midor dor. This war, or this declaration that Hashem going to wipe them out, Amalek, will not happen overnight. Actually, it will take the entire history, all the generation, midor dor. But at the end, that's what's going to happen. But we have to know that we have here a war. And the war is between Amalek. It's mentioned at the beginning, Vayavo Amalek Vayilachem im Yisrael. But at the end we see that Amalek, because Hashem says, Milchama laHashem ba'Amalek, it means that Amalek didn't come to Israel. Amalek came to fight Hashem. And Hashem said, okay, you want to fight me? Okay, I will return. I will fight you. So the entire war, this entire interesting, unusual war, has many, many points that we have to put together in order to understand what Amalek is, and as I said, to enhance our understanding of what Milchemet Amalek or Mechias Amalek is. Of course, another thing is very obvious. In Sefer Devarim, Parshas Kitetse, Hashem commanding us, והיה בהניח השם אלוקיך לך מכל אויביך מסביב, he's speaking to the Jewish people, it says, תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים, לא תשכח. תמחה, you do it. You will fight them until you finish them up. Don't forget. It's a mitzvah to us. But in Sefer Shemot, it says, Macho emche. Hashem will do it. So, who has to do it? We, Hashem, together. How? And, okay, let's now go back to the main points over here. First of all, we have to understand who's Amalek. Who's Amalek technically? I mean, the person. Amalek was the name of a person. If we go back in the Torah, you could see that Amalek is a descendant of Esau. Why it's important to trace where he's coming from? Because I just want to remind you something that I spoke about last year, for those of you who were here. And that Maaseh Avot Siman Lebanim. And actually, the fight between Amalek and Israel started at the time of Yaakov and Esau. Even when they were fetus in the stomach of their mother, they were fighting. ויתרוצצו הבנים בקרבה. ותאמר אם כן למה זה אנוכי? ותלך לדרוש את השם. And Hashem told her at the time when she was pregnant. ויאמר השם לה, שני גויים בבטנך ושני לאומים ממאייך ייפרדו. Those two children going to be fathers of two nations. And those two nations going to fight each other. ולאום מלאום יאמץ. ורב יעבוד צעיר. As a nation that will be always one against the other. And at the end, the oldest will be under serving the youngest. That's what Hashem told her at the time. Later on, in Parshas Toldos, it's mentioned that after Yaakov took the brachos of Esau, I'm not going to all the details, but to the bottom line, Esau came, realized that, and he asked Yitzchak to give him a bracha, and Yitzchak says to him, I could not change it. And Gvir Samtiv Lach, he will be ruling over you. You must be under him. But he begged him to give him a bracha. And the bracha that he gave him is Ve'al charbecha tichyeh. Yitzchak, speaking now to Esau. Ve'al charbecha tichyeh. Ve'et achicha ta'avod. I'm going to give you... He gave him something, again, very interesting. Could you just picture those words and understand them? Ve'al charbecha tichyeh. Cherev is a sword. Sword bring death. So he told them, your source of life, you will be alive when you kill. This is what he got. Ve'al charbecha tichyeh. He is a killer. He is a killer. And he got his essence of life when he is killing. But he told them, Ve'et achicha ta'avod. You could not use this sword against your brother. So later on in the history, we find that he tried to do it, to use the sword against his brother. Amalek came to the Jewish people, Vayilachem Israel berfidim. So here we have to just mention, in brief, the Gemara says why the name of the place called Refidim, Sherafu yedehem min Torah. Because the Jewish people was weakened in the Torah. They were not strong in the Torah. And actually it is in the bracha that Yitzchak gave to Esau. He told him, Ve'al charbecha tichyeh, ve'et achicha ta'avod, ve'haya ka'asher tarid u'parakta u'lo me'al tzavarecha. Ve'haya ka'asher tarid, when this thing called tarid will happen, then you'll not be under him anymore. You'll not be his servant anymore. And then you could turn this sword toward him. Says Onkelos, what do you mean? What is the meaning of Ve'al charbecha tarid? When the children of Yaakov will not learn Torah, this is the meaning of the word tarid. And at the time we explained how it comes from it, and Rashi explained it even better. I could not go now to the details. But Ve'haya ka'asher tarid, when his children of Yaakov will stop learning Torah, then you allow to use this sword toward him. Okay? Now, if we'll go back to trace the biological source of Amalek. Maybe you know that, but maybe you don't, and it's very important to know it. In Sefer Bereshis, Perek Lamed Vav, the Torah brings the list of the descendants of Esau. So Esau had many children. His firstborn was Eliphaz, right? As everybody know, I guess, in this crowd. Now the Torah goes to explain, and be aware of every word over here, who are the children of Eliphaz. Here's the list. Vayu bnei Eliphaz, the sons of Eliphaz, Teiman, Omar, Tzfo, Vegaatam, Uknaz. 5 boys. Now, the Torah continues and says, Vetimna הייתה פילגש לאליפז בן עשיו. Timna is the name of a girl, and she was a mistress to Eliphaz ben Esav, ותלד לאליפז את Amalek. So Amalek was the grandson of Esau. How? He was the son of Eliphaz. Who was his mother of Amalek? Timna. Taf, Mem, Nun, Ayin. That's her name, Timna. Okay. Now, the Torah continue, the next few psukim. The Torah moving to different thing. I mean, the Torah mentioned the descendants of Esau. Now, where Esau lived Behar Seir. It was a place called Har Seir, the mountain of Seir. In Seir, before Esau came, because Esau came from Eretz Yisrael, from Canaan. He was born with Yaakov to Yitzchak and Rivka in Eretz Canaan, right? So he went to live in Seir. Who was in Seir before him? So the Torah mentioned that over there it was a nation or a group of people called Chori. Chet Reish Yud. Chori. Now the Torah goes to the details over here, not for nothing, you will see. And the Torah says, Ele bnei Seir hachori yoshvei haaretz. Here's the list of the descendants of the Chori that was living in Har Seir before Esau came. Okay? So here's the list of the children. Ele bnei Seir hachori yoshvei haaretz. Lotan, Veshoval, Vetzivon, Va'ana, Vedishon, Ve'etzer, Vedishon. 7 boys of Chori. אלה אלופי אחורי בני שעיר בארץ אדום. One of them, be aware, his name is Lotan. Okay? ויהיו בני לוטן, and the sons of Lotan, חורי והימם, ואחות לוטן תמנה. So Timna was the granddaughter of Seir. We do not know. We do not know. We do not know. So there is Seir. And Seir has a boy named Lotan, right? And then it's mentioned that Bnei Lotan was Chori ve'imam. And then the Torah goes back and says, no, I missed one thing. Lotan, the son of Seir, has a sister. And his sister named Timna. Okay? You're not mixed up with all the mishpachology over here? Okay? So now this Timna was the mistress of Eliphaz. Okay? Okay. If you think it's complicated enough now, let's move to another place in the Tanakh, and then it's become even more complicated. All of this in order to find out who's Amalek. I'm going now from the Torah to the Nevi'im Ksuvim to the end of the Tanakh, Sefer Divrei Yamim. In Divrei Yamim, there is a summary again of the entire history. Now, in Sefer Divrei Yamim, Perek Aleph, Pasuk Lamed Hey, it says the following. Bnei Esav, Eliphaz, we know that, right? Eliphaz was his firstborn. Bnei Esav, Eliphaz, Reuel, Ve'yeush, Ve'yalam, Ve'korach. בני אליפז, תימן ועומר, צפו וגעתם וכנז. Now, who are the sons of Eliphaz? Teiman, אומר, צפו וגעתם וכנז, ותמנע ועמלק. So Amalek, we know that is his son, right? But here it mentioned that Timnah also was the daughter of Eliphaz. In Sefer Bereshit, we saw that she was his mistress. She was the mother of Amalek. But here it's mentioned that she was a sister of Amalek. Bnei Ruel, okay? ובני לוטן חורי ואימן, ואחות לוטן תמנע. Again, here it's mentioned that Timnah was the sister of Lotan. But the problem is, Lotan was not the son of Eliphaz. Lotan was the son of Chori. Says the Midrash, and here's the story. Rashi brings the entire thing over here in Sefer Bereshis, Perek Lamed, and he says the following. I will summarize the Rashi. Rashi says, it's mentioned over here, the Sefer Bereshit, that Achot Lotan Timna. Lotan was the son of Seir, right? So apparently, if she is a sister, she is the daughter of Seir. But how come he mentioned her not as a daughter of Seir, but a sister of Lotan, right? And more than that, in Divrei Yamim, it's mentioned that she is a daughter of Eliphaz. So says Rashi, in the name of המדרש, ובדברי הימים מונה אותה בבניו של אליפז. says רש"י, מלמד שבא אליפז על אשתו של שעיר, ויצאה תמנע מביניהם. Eliphaz has a relation with the wife of Seir. And from those relations, Timnah was born. So Timnah was a mamzeret. Therefore, it's not mentioned that she is the daughter of Seir, because she wasn't. She was the daughter of the wife of Seir, but not Seir himself. So who was the father? Eliphaz. Later on, this Timnah, says Rashi, Ukshegadla, she went to go to be part of the Mishpacha of Avraham, of the family of Avraham Avinu, and they refused to take her because she was mamzeret. וכשגדלה, נעשית פילגשו של עשיו. When she grew up, she became the mistress of her father, Eliphaz. And from their relations, Amalek come out. So Amalek was a mamzer, daughter of a mamzeret. So that is yichus. You have to understand this. I mean, this is the story of Amalek. And that explains everything. Why in Divrei Hayomim it's mentioned that Timnah was the daughter of Eliphaz, and here it's mentioned that she was the mother of Amalek. So Eliphaz and Timnah and Amalek were a mother and a son, and a sister and a brother. Okay, this is Amalek. Now, let's go a little deeper beyond these things. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that in the Medrash, in the Sifri, when Esav decided to kill Yaakov, as I mentioned before, I'll quote you the pasuk. The pasuk says, "ויסתום עשיו את יעקב על הברכה אשר ברכו אביו. ויאמר עשיו בליבו, יקרבו ימי אבל אבי, והרגה את יעקב אחיו." Esav got a strategic decision to kill Yaakov. To kill Yaakov. Says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai on this, אמר רבי שמעון בר יוחאי, הלכה היא בידוע שעשיו שונא ליעקב. Halacha, this is something that is very clear. You could not argue with this. Esav sonel Yaakov. I mean, when the Torah says, "Vayistom Esav et Yaakov," it's real. It's a real decision. He is the extreme enemy of Yaakov, of the Jewish people, Esav. Now, from Esav came a person named Amalek, and this Amalek became a father of a whole nation called Amalek. If we'll go, again, deeper, the first hate in the Torah mentioned in Chet Adam Rishon. Right after the Chet, everybody got their punishment, right? The Nachash Chava and Adam. When Hashem spoke to the Nachash, he says, ארור אתה מכל הבהמה ומכל חיית השדה, על גחונך תלך, ועפר תאכל כל ימי חייך. You will be cursed from all the animals. You will go on your neck or your stomach, meaning that before that the Nachash has legs. If somebody could picture a dinosaur, okay, maybe. But his legs and hands got cut off, and he's going on his stomach. Ve'afar tochal kol yemei chayecha, you will eat dust or dirt all your life. Now the Torah mentioned, ve'eiva ashit bencha uven ha'isha uven zaracha uven zara. There will be a hatred between you and the descendants of Chava, meaning human beings. That was the first hate. And it was outcome of the sin. That was one of the outcomes that many people just do not really think or remember that it was part of it. There is a hatred between the snake and the human being. Now, about the snake, the Medrash says, it's a perk of the Rabbi Eliezer, the Medrash says, that Nachash HaKadmoini was a Nachash Verochvo. He has a rider. He has legs. So you could picture a horse, a camel, a dinosaur, whatever it is. And on it says the Medrash was a rider. And who is the rider? The rider is the Sitra Achra. It's spiritual power that was riding this snake. And he was the one who made Adam and Chava work or act against what Hashem commanded. Because the sin, the outcome, one of the many outcomes, was hatred between Adam and the snake. Okay, in order to understand this, we have to understand, to just remember the following. Hashem created Adam, and Hashem gave him instructions what to do and what not to do. Then, in Gan Eden, Mikol etz hagan achol tochel, from this tree, don't eat. The Sitra Achra, which is the rider of the snake, convinced them to go against what Hashem says. And they did it, and they sinned. And because of this, there is death in the world, and there are all the things, the work hard, and it creates this hatred, this sinner. When Yaakov and Esau was born, Hashem told Rivka, when she was pregnant, that will be a constant conflict. It's not just now, during the pregnancy. It's when those children will be born, when they, in their lives as personals, and in the lives of the nations that are going to come out of them, will be always tension. The tension got to the point when Esau decided to kill Yaakov. Vayistom Esau et Yaakov. He hates him. And he wants to kill him. In the Kabbalah sources, it's mentioned that every nation in the world has a spiritual representative in Shamayim, in the upper world. And it's mentioned that there are 70 nations in the world, and the common denominator of all 70, that all of them is against the Jews. Without going to too many details, we have to know that all the nations of the world are called Ovdei Kochavim Umazalot. Ovdei Elilim. Elilim, in English, are idols. For those of you who know Hebrew and appreciate the word, the Lashon HaKodesh, Elil is a small Aleph Lamed. Elil. So they took idols, they took powers. El is a koach. יש לאל ידי לעשות לכם מאומה. אל זה כוח. There's a power. הקדוש ברוך הוא created many powers in the world. So the nations, people, Bnei Adam, took those powers and relate to them as they are the original power. And this is called Avodah Zarah. All of the nations of the world, all the 70 nations, are idol worshippers. There's only one nation who knows the truth, and this is us, because we accept Malchus Hashem. It started from the Avos, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, but in Ma'amad Har Sinai we said, Hashem told us, "V'atem tiyu li, will be for me, mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh, a kingdom of servants and holy nation." And we said about this, all of us, Na'aseh v'nishma. So we became the nation of Hashem. Avraham Avinu was alone against the entire world. למה נקרא שמו אברהם העברי? Said the Medrash why he was called אברהם העברי, שהוא עומד מעבר אחד, וכל העולם כולו עומד מעבר אחר. So we have to know, it's a very important point in Hashkafa, that we are alone in the world. We always was alone. Even when we thought that we have friends, we do not have any friends. Bilam realized this, and he says, "Hen am levadad yishkon." He is alone. Uvagoim lo yitchashav. He is not part of the nations. So it says that all 70 nations in the world are against what we represent. They have a hard time with the fact that there is only one truth in the world, one spiritual truth. And it says, there is a pasuk that says, Bilam. Again, Bilam, the Navi of Umot HaOlam, he said that. He speaks about Amalek. Vayaret Amalek. When he came to curse the Jewish people, and Hashem turned his curse to blessing, before he went back, he says to Balak, let me tell you something about the end of days. לך ואגיד לך את אשר יקרא יעשה העם הזה לעמך באחרית הימים. And he spoke about many things. One of the things he says, he looked at Amalek and he says, ראשית גויים עמלק ואחריתו עדי עובד. And here, he just revealed that we have 70 nations, there is a hierarchy in them. And the one who is on the top is Amalek. This is the meaning of the word Reshit Goyim Amalek. He is the first one. Meaning, all of them are against what we represent, but he is the leader. He is the one that will do the dirty work during the history for all of them, trying to wipe us from under the sky. And that's what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says. Halachai biyadua she'esav soneh liYaakov. Now, let's go back to Milchemet Amalek. The Jewish people just went out of Mitzrayim. Hashem took them out from the Tumas Mitzrayim in order to give them the Torah. This is a new stage in the revealing of the truth in the world. It started from Avraham Avinu, but Avraham Avinu was one person. And Hashem told him, Ve'escha legoy gadol, I will make out of you a great nation. Meaning, it's not a project that one person will carry. We need a whole nation. I'm going to do this nation from you. Later on, Hashem told him, ידוע תדע כי גר יהיה זרעך בארץ לא להם, ועבדו ועינו אותה, ואחרי כן יצאו ברכוש גדול. And Hashem promised and fulfilled his promise. He took us out of Mitzrayim. Before we got the Torah, Amalek has full of motivation to stop this. Because if we're right, he's wrong. He is the representative of all the opposition against Torah, against Avraham Avinu, against Hashem. He is a descendant of Esav who hates Yaakov because of this. Because Yaakov, again, I cannot go to all of those details. Yaakov was Yoshev Ohalim, learning Torah, and he was Ish Sabah. He was Am Ha'aretz. He was connected to the material, ignoring the spiritual. And that was the background of the conflict between him and Yaakov. And Yaakov won, and he hates him, and he wants to kill him. Here comes his grandson, not himself, but the nation that came out of him, Amalek, and wants to kill the Jews. What Yitzchak says, if you remember, to Esav? Al Charbechat Ichya, I'm giving you the sword, but this sword could not be turned to Yaakov unless Yaakov will stop being Ger Shebahalim. And that's what happened. Vayachanu berfidim. Rafu yedayim min haTorah. They were not strong in the Torah that they got at the time, because it was before Matan Torah, as I mentioned. So what is the meaning Rafu yedayim min haTorah? They have few mitzvahs. They have Bris Milah, they have Shabbat, and they have few things, Kibud Avayim, they got in Mara even before Amalek came. So that was the Torah. That was the Torah at the time. From this Torah, Rafu Yadayim, they become weaker. Then Amalek came. He could not hurt us unless we will let him to do it, by not being strong in the ideology of Yaakov being Ger Shebahalim. So he came. So when he came, we have again to understand that it's not a simple war between nations. It's a philosophical, spiritual war between what we represent as Yisrael, meaning Yisrael is one word that if you divide it to two, meaning the rulership of Hashem. Yisra, Srara. Srara is a minister ruling over. Srarat Hashem. Amalek is against what we represent, Srarat Hashem, that Hashem is the only one. So actually Amalek came to fight Hashem, to fight the nation that represents Hashem in the world. When such a war occurred, and this is the first war that we faced as a nation, Amalek was the first nation in the world that came to fight us. And the Medrash also mentioned that it was crazy from his end, because he wasn't a super strong nation. It was a small group of people, Amalek. Mitzrayim at the time was the superpower at the time. And Mitzrayim destroyed completely because Pharaoh refused to send the Jews out. So it was so stupid, it's committing suicide from his point of view, Amalek, to do a war against the Jewish people, that Hashem interfered in the world and shows that He is protecting them. It was after Kriyas Yamsuf. About Kriyas Yamsuf, we sang every day in Shir Sayam, right? Az nivhalu alufei Edom, ele Moav, yochazeh morad, namogu kol yeshvei Knan, tipol aleim emata v'fachad. Everybody was scared. But not Esau. So he just almost, it's crazy what he did. And he went all the way from there, from where he was sitting, to Refidim to make this war. It's not a regular war. It's a spiritual war. How we should deal with such a war? Moshe Rabbeinu taught us. He chose Yoshua, not a general, not a fighter. A masmid, lo yamish mitoch ha'oel. One of the good, maybe the good student in the best medrash of Moshe Rabbeinu. Mesharto, Yoshua bin Nun nar, lo yamish mitoch ha'oel. He took him because only he could win such a war. Bechar lanu anashim, chose the highest level spiritually people and go make the war. But you have to know, when you go make the war, I also will be part of the war by davening to Hashem, by praying to Hashem. A major principle, you know, as an Israeli, I could tell you, you hear in the news, right? Maybe. You know what's going on in Eretz Yisrael? You heard about the Atzeres?
About the what?
The Atzeres?
Yes.
It was in Yerushalayim yesterday. The Hafgana, right.
Yeah.
And it's called it Atzeres in Hebrew.
Atzeret?
Atzeret. That was the Atzeret. The Hafgana in Yerushalayim, right? You know what it's all about, right? The Torah teaches us. Torah is Torah. It's not stories. The Torah teaches us how to make wars. And this is the first war that we ever faced. And we have to know, here's another principle. You have to send soldiers to make the actual war. But they could not do it themselves without davening, without praying, without being Talmid Chacham. Moshe Rabbeinu has to be part of it. So when we learn Torah in yeshiva, we're part of the army. Without that, the army will lose. And they do not understand this. The government in Israel now. Hopefully they will come back tshuva soon and they'll understand what they do not understand and everything will be fine. But anyways, Moshe Rabbeinu says, I will be part of it. I will daven. And we see from this parsha that when the davening was not going well, it has an impact on the battle war. V'idei Moshe kvedim. Now, what is the secret of the hands of Moshe Rabbeinu? Maharal explained that a hand is the organ in the human body that make connection between him and the physical world around him. Ma'aseh yadai, right? It's a hand that connects you to the world around you. And with the hands we could do a lot of things. We did. We have space shuttle, we have a lot of good things that we did with our hands. The Torah warning us in Sefer Devarim, when you go to the country, Eretz Yisrael, it's Eretz Tova Urechava, Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash, good land. You'll get everything that you want. But Hashem says in Sefer Devarim, Yishamer lecha pen tishkach et Hashem Elokecha. You might forget Hashem. Ve'amarta bilvavcha, and you could say in your heart, Kochi ve'otzem yadi asu li et hachayil hazeh. You might forget Hashem and think, wow, I'm so good, I'm so successful. It's me. I'm doing all of this. My hand. Kochi ve'otzem yadi. So the Torah says, Ve'zacharta et Hashem Elokecha, you should remember Hashem, Ki hu hanoten lecha koach la'asot chai. That everything that you will do, it's because Hashem helped you to do it. So remember it. Don't forget it. And it's the same warning. Here, by Parshas Zohar, we say at the end, as I mentioned before, Lo tishkach. Don't forget. Ve'zacharta et Hashem Elokecha. And here, Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek. Lo tishkach. Why? Because you have a tendency to forget. The natural way is to forget. Because of the gaiva, I relate everything to myself. I'm smart. I'm rich. I'm successful. This is the ego. Remember that Hashem gave you this power. Same thing with Amalek. Amalek is the Sitra Achra. Sitra Achra, to translate it to English, is the other side. Sitra, side. Achra, other. Other side. Other side of what? What is the original? The original is Hashem. So he offers you an alternative to Hashem, as he did with Adam Arishon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told you don't eat, I'm telling you eat. Right? And the sin was that we Adam and Chava accept him as an authority and deny Hashem. Avraham Avinu did the opposite. Hashem is the king of the world. And we said this in Ma'amad Har Sinai, Hashem hu Elokim, Na'aseh v'nishma. This is Israel. Amalek wants to fight against Yisrael, against the fact that Hashem is the only one who rules everything, which is the meaning of the word Israel. So when Moshe Rabbeinu was davening, his hands, Moshe Rabbeinu represents the Jewish people, the Jewish nation in general. Moshe Rabbeinu shakul keneged Klal Yisrael. He is parallel to the Klal Yisrael. So when Moshe Rabbeinu took his hands and lift them up and daven to Hashem, he said, "You see this hand? It's not mine. You giving those hands the ability to be successful." This is the meaning when the hands were up. But naturally, the hands of Moshe, as the representative of the Jewish people, was falling down. They have a tendency to relate things to themselves, not to Hashem. And without Aaron and Hur support and push them up, they will fall down. And when they will fall down, Amalek will win. And it's very natural. Why? Because Amalek is just the opposite of what Hashem. You do it. It's you. It's you who do it. Right? Therefore we need, Moshe Rabbeinu Kivyachol needs Aaron and Hur to support the hands to be up. Okay. Now, so the meaning of the hand is a tool. Our tool that Hashem gave us to work with the world around us. But it's very powerful tools in a way that could be very dangerous. Because with these hands, you could relate everything to you and ignore Hashem. What's the right way to do it? To do a lot of things with your hands, but know that everything comes from Hashem. Right? Hashem swore that because Amalek actually comes against the idea of Hashem wa Elokim, he has a business with him. Hashem himself. It's not the Jewish nation against the Amalek nation. Milchama laHashem ba'Amalek. Midordo. But we, as Jews, as the nation of Hashem, has to be part of it also. You see, the war against Amalek is always in two levels. The soldiers of Yoshua ben Nun and Moshe Rabbeinu. The Jewish nation and Hashem. And we will do it together. We have to know that Amalek exists today. Every generation, as is mentioned in the Torah, midordo, every generation. But if you understand what Amalek is, Amalek is not just a nation. Amalek is an idea. It's, the manifestation of it could be a nation. Today we do not know who is the nation of Amalek. We know that there are Amalekim in the world, but there is no nation called Amalek. But there are many people in the world, of course in the nations of the world, but even inside the Jewish nation, that what drives them is Amalek. Is the idea of everything against what Hashem says. Just do the opposite. This is Amalek. And in a way, in each one of us, it doesn't matter what level we are, we have a little Amalek. And this is the challenge that we have, that we know what we should do, and yet sometimes we're not strong enough to do what we know, what we should do. But we do just the opposite. This is the Amalek inside us. The mitzvah of Mechias Amalek is a practical mitzvah to every Jew, every time, even today. We could not perform the technical Mechias Amalek. You could not take this person and say, you're Amaleki, But you could take the idea. You have to understand. You have to be aware. Many people are not aware that there is a war going on between the truth and the evil. And it's not just around us, it's inside us. And this is the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek that we should do. Okay, our time is over, but not the topic. The topic is bigger and longer with a lot of details. But what we could do, and I hope we did some, is just give a little going inside, understanding even deeper what's going on. There are many more, but that's what we could do in this time. So thank you for your attention, and I hope Mechias Amalek this year will be different than last year, just because we learned a little bit more. Thank you.